Hello and welcome to our next in line webinar. This is the 22nd and it's a new subject. We got quite a few requests for doing this particular webinar, and it is something which has been there on my mind for long and I was not really taking it very, that it might be required or not. So on popular demand, so here we are, the SOC for cybersecurity. Now, don't misunderstand this for security operations center for cybersecurity. This is more from the SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 perspective. But even if you haven't got SOC 1 or SOC 2 in place, don't worry. This will really help you your organization to mature more in as we go ahead, as your organization grows in understanding and deploying cybersecurity in your organization. Now, a quick few things. Whatever your questions are, please feel free to drop me a line. You can click on the questions and drop your question, and I'll try and answer as much as I can, as I always do. And secondly is that you might we have this small questions that I ask, and do share your thoughts on that. And one thing I assure you and promise you, that your names are not disclosed anywhere. Neither will my marketing team reach out to you for any services based on your responses. So don't worry, this will be just in the interest on knowledge sharing. So before we start, one quick question. How many of you, and I've got a massive turnout today, and how many of you have maybe a SOC 1 or a SOC 2, implemented in your organization and have got successfully attested? So a quick show of hands. You might not, and again, as I said, we're not just for the sake of getting some numbers, but not really to reach out to you or for anything. Okay, so how many of you? Oh, wow, quite a few. That's really nice. Okay. Now, coming to the next thing, how many of you would be on SOC 2, not just not SOC 1? Of these, I've got almost like 60% of my 65% of the turnout having SOC in place. So how many of you would be on SOC 2? Oh, that's fairly interesting. That's almost like 60% addition, 60%. So it's almost the same. So I assume that most of you are on SOC 2. So that's nice. So this is something new. That is SOC for cybersecurity, which came out like 2 years back. Let's just get into it. So before we proceed, quick attaching face to the voice. That is me, Narendra Sahu. I have my own company, VISTA InfoSec, and I've been in this industry for like almost 25 years now. And I have my own company, VISTA InfoSec. We are into almost all of the cybersecurity services. We don't sell any products, and we are there in India, US, now coming up in Southeast Asia. And we are also having our own CPS, so we do all the SOC services also through our company in the US, our own company in the US. All right, moving ahead. The brief agenda based on the mail that was sent to you, or the invite that was sent to you. These are the 5 areas. That is, what is the purpose and use? What is the difference between SOC for cybersecurity and SOC 2? Then on what basis is the assessment done? Then the reporting format, and then finally, how successfully can I combine SOC 2 and SOC for cybersecurity? This will really take a lot of time. This will take like 40 minutes, but I assure you it's going to be worth your time. So stay with me, and whatever queries you have, just put it in the question box. I will answer you. A brief timeline. So this all started off in by AICPA in 1970s, where CPAs were required to consider effects of electronic data. So CPAs, certified public accountants. So typically their role was basically for financial audits, but then through the 1970s and 1980s, 90s, the AICPA slowly and surely has encouraged them, the entire CPA team, to look into the cybersecurity and control effectiveness on cybersecurity also, in addition to financial reportings. So CPA started performing this SAS 70, which was later come to know as SOC 1, which became like SAS SSAE 18, 16, and SSAE 18. And then by 2000s, by the early 2000s, all the SOC reports required started getting rolled out. Then in 2017, SOC for cybersecurity attestation for CPS was launched. Now in 2018 and beyond, the plan is They will introduce SOC for vendor supply chain management, for vendor supply chain assessment. Many other areas also SOC is expected to evolve. So it's no longer going to be just in the TSC criterion. It is going to go beyond. That's why the SOC for cybersecurity has come up. And as you might be aware, and I'm sure that you might be aware, is that the acceptability of SOC 1 cyber of SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 reports across the world has been fairly phenomenal. It's been very well respected and accepted, more than even, if I might say this, even in comparison to maybe an ISO standard, maybe an ISO 27001 or stuff. The valuation for SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 has been fairly phenomenal. Okay, let's go ahead. So an executive summary. So SOC for cybersecurity is basically a reporting vehicle to communicate. So what it is about and how it is, we'll get into this. So this is more from the cybersecurity perspective, and it is required to be performed and prepared by a licensed CPA firm. And SOC for cybersecurity is not really limited to service organization. It's like a brief summary of SOC for cybersecurity. A brief overview of SOC as a whole, because many of us, a few of you might not even be aware of what is SOC, SOC 1, SOC 2, and you might be getting confused between SOC 2 and SOC for cybersecurity. That's been like, if you do a search on Google, that's been one of the most frequently asked questions. So SOC, it started off with SSAE 16, then it got renamed as SOC 1, then SOC 2, and SOC 2. So if I might summarize it, SOC 1 is basically for the reporting on the controls of a service organization relevant to the internal control for financial reporting, ICFR. So for the internal control of over financial reporting. So it'll be used to understand your, how sturdy or how financial stable is your organization, how well you're reporting, how well you are, being financial stable and reporting to your stakeholders, to the taxation authorities. So this SOC 1 is for that. Now, SOC 2 is is the standard that you want to see from your subcontractor. So it is basically for service organizations, and it is relevant to, there are 5 trust principles. There is security, availability, processing integrity, uh, confidentiality, and or privacy. So there are these 5 trust principles. So this is basically built up on the COSO framework. So it doesn't just include all these, InfoSec trust principles, but also looks at how you are managing your organization. So it goes much beyond a plain ISO also. So if we've done SOC 2 for like scores of organizations, and many a time they ask, the companies say that we've done maybe a SOC 2, ISO 27001. So SOC 2 would be easy, and my straight upfront answer is, on an average, if you have done ISO 27001 on a reasonably well basis, you may have covered maybe 20% or something like that of the total requirements of SOC 2. If you're lucky, maybe 25%, if not maybe 10 or 15% of the SOC 2 requirements. So SOC 2 requirements and ISO 27001, there is a huge gap, because it covers the overall functioning of the organization, also how IT is managed, how communication is done, privacy is managed. All those things are there. In the spirit of the control perspective, yes, you might say ISO touches about everything, but I'm trying to be practical. In a practical perspective, you'll never go beyond 20%. There are more than like 400 plus controls in SOC 2, and there are 114 in ISO. So I'm not speaking just from, like a percentage perspective, but the coverage perspective of SOC 2 is phenomenal. Now, SOC 2 is for a limited audience. SOC 3 is for general availability to any customers. So SOC 3 is more like an executive summary, if I might say that, of a SOC 2 report. So SOC 3 is not really an additional attestation. So SOC 1, as I said, we have been through this SAS 70, then it became SOC 1. It is basically internal controls for financial reporting, ICFR based, assessment, attestation. And who are covered under this? This will be basically for all those organizations like payroll, healthcare, trust departments, custodians, financial services, asset management. So if a vendor, if a principal wants to know how financially stable their vendor is, they ask for SOC 1 reports. And SOC 2, this is basically at a service organization, and AICPA has beautiful designed 5 trust principles, TSPs as it is called: security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. So you have to use these controls for implementation and attestation of SOC 2 in your organization. And then who's covered for that? And here we see there are so many organizations, that is SaaS based organization, PaaS based organization, IS, HR services. So in our experience, it has mostly been all those organizations which has done who was providing cloud based services, or remote services, or data management services. Those are the ones, or even legal organizations, companies who are doing legal data processing comes under SOC 2. Even data center co-location, because there again the availability aspects and security aspects comes into place. And if those DCs, co-location data center services are providing managed services, then the scope becomes even more. And why do you need a SOC 2? Basically, again, regulatory requirements, entity mandates. Most of the time, it is user entities are pushing other drivers for organizations to become SOC 2 compliant. Of course, we have had a few organizations who basically did it for due diligence. That is, we are going to provide services, so we want to get SOC 2 attested. Perhaps for a competition, for a competitive edge in the market. And then, of course, there's a SOC 3, again, similar matter like a SOC 2, but here it is, the focus has been more always on the trust service principles and the content that came out from a SOC 2 report. So you can't really have a SOC 3 report without a SOC 2 report happening. So once you have a SOC 2 attestation done, then you move into the SOC 3 phase. So if you ask any organization, including mine, for doing a SOC 3, I'll have to do a SOC 2 first. Get the data out, and then sanitize it and make an executive summary and give you a SOC 3. So that said, this is in summary how the application happens, all that I said so far. And as you can see, SOC 2 is for all interested and knowledgeable parties on a need to know basis only, and SOC 3 is basically for anyone. Now coming to SOC diversification, this is like a summary again of what we saw earlier. So historically, SOC has been branded as Service Organization Control Reports, SOC, but then it got rebranded as System Organization Control Reports, SOC reports. The acronym remains the same, SOC, but the definition then changes. So how does that work? What happens is that now it can be used even by non-service providers. SOC reports are not meant only attestations to be done only for service providers, but even non-service providers can use it. So then it allowed for the expansion of the SOC suite into cybersecurity, vendor supply chains, etc. But on a practical basis, if you ask me, most of the people who are actually doing SOC are basically the service organizations who have then been goaded by their principals, by their vendors, to have SOC reports to be done. Okay, there is a nice question that's been asked. Can you let me know what is the approximate cost and the time it takes to assess for SOC 2? Well, my answer would be the same that I would give for any other service that you provide. That is, it all based on the scope. It will be as asking somebody that a builder, for example, that I want to buy a house, how much will it cost? So how big a house you want? What is your comfort requirements, which floor you want, how big is your family, and stuff like that, how many parking seats you want. So here also, how many locations you have, what all data you're managing for your clients, how many locations you have, what all business processes is there. And in SOC 2 also, you can define which trust principles that you actually want to go ahead to get attested for. So there are many parameters, your current control maturity. So there are many there are many parameters on which it is assessed. And okay, another example. Okay, this is okay. I got another question now, that is again from the SOC 2 perspective, but the question is something like, okay, how much time does it take for SOC 2 now? My dear friends, this webinar is basically for SOC for cybersecurity. I understand and I value your questions on SOC 2 also, but you have had quite a few more webinars already done on SOC for cyber SOC 2. So what I would suggest is if you go to a YouTube page, I'll give you the links at the end, and all the earlier webinars are there in which I've covered this content more in detail. So you can go over there, or you can drop me a line at the end. I'll be giving you my email, my personal email address. You can write to me, call me, whatever. I'm there for you. Okay, but just to quickly answer you, for a SOC 2, assessment and reporting, it takes minimum it takes 4 to 6 weeks minimum. And if you're looking at even the consulting to get ready, you're looking at, and there are various varieties in SOC 2. There is a SOC 2 type 1, SOC 2 type 2, depends on what you want to do, what is your current maturity. So if you're on an average, if you're looking at consulting happening, if you're doing maybe a consulting for you, it'll be like, it's a 6 months exercise to get you ready and then to get you attested by our CPA. That all takes time, and that's where the time lag is there. But this reporting is huge. The evidence requirements, and understand, SOC 2, there is a huge, there is a the liability on the CPA on our organization is fairly phenomenal. If anything goes wrong, or if there is any misrepresentation in the SOC reports, and it gets highlighted in any manner or gets reported to AICPA, our CPA will lose the attestation, his accreditation at AICPA immediately, and might even get arrested along with our company getting blacklisted. So it is not like a standard so-called implementation which anything goes and you can put anything and write anything and then nobody checks or nobody asks. So plus our company is based in the US, so our clients get a better brand value plus, but the liability levels are really very high. Okay, so I really need to move. Already 20 minutes have gone by, and I want to show you many things. Okay, so SOC for cybersecurity finally. So again, you can define your own criterion over here, objectives, and over here you can, I've included maybe 4 for you: availability, confidentiality, integrity of data, integrity of processing. So there are no trust principles over here. There is something called as descriptive criterion. I'll come to that. I'll even show you what AICPA has to share on this. And then what is it? It is basically an SOC for cybersecurity is an examination of an entity's cybersecurity risk management program, RMP, as it is referred to. It is entity-wide, or scope can be anything. You can define the scope. It can be, as I said, entity-wise or specific business unit function or a specific type of information or a specific service. Now, you don't have this flexibility when you are doing SOC 2, but you have this flexibility when you're doing SOC for cybersecurity. And the report over here is for general purpose. So it typically should not be containing very highly sensitive data. It is performed in accordance to the SSAE 18 reporting requirements. And what it is not a SOC 2 or a SOC 2 plus additional criterion. This is what people used to feel, that SOC for cybersecurity, probably, okay, there are those 5 trust principles and there would be some new control requirements that has come up, but that's not the case over here. So SOC for cybersecurity is a totally different ballgame, as I'll show you the criterion, like 19 odd requirements for that. So it is not just for service organizations. It requires separate management and vendor accountability. And again, the report components differ. We'll even get into what are the report components in SOC for cybersecurity reporting requirements. And this is the report components. Typically, okay, there is a management description in the beginning on what is the organization cybersecurity RMP, risk management program. Then there is a effectiveness of controls within the organization for how the organization has achieved the cybersecurity objectives. And then finally the practitioners, that is a CPS opinion on whether whatever the management has written are effective in achieving the organization's cybersecurity objectives. So that's where the audit opinion comes to place. So the reporting format is also fairly interesting. There are overlaps with the SOC 2 reporting format. I'll show you a reporting format also. So stay with me on that. The description criterion. So there is no TSC, that is trust, trust services criterion over here, but there is a different description criterion over here. There are 19 criteria which is recommended. Implementation guidance is provided in full and it is available for free download. And it is all flexible, customizable. You can enhance on it, improve on it as per your requirements. And these are the description criterion. There is, I'll take you through this in detail. Now, these are not 19. These are just top level domains. I know this is 9, not 19. Below that are the control requirements, the descriptive criterion requirements. Nature of business and operations, inherent cybersecurity risk, cybersecurity information and communications, nature of information at risk. And look at this, monitoring of the cybersecurity RMP, risk management program. Yeah, cybersecurity risk management program objectives. So we'll get into the sheet also. So you have a better criteria, you have a better understanding. And what they suggest over here as the criterion requirements is basically at least have the descriptive criterion touching on security, availability, and confidentiality. Again, this is recommended, not mandatory. And it is flexible and customizable. So you can select your own, criteria from the 19 that has been selected, relevant to what is applicable to your organization. And benefits, again, it's an independent validation of your cybersecurity RMP, risk management program. It differentiates you from your competitors because here you've got a CPO who's attesting your risk management program, and then it helps you come and clients as well. So let us move quickly into the description criterion. Now I'll be pulling up a sheet. Just give me a second, so you have a better understanding of what it is all about. Okay, I hope you can see this. Okay, I understand it's slightly small. Let me zoom it up for you. Okay, I hope this is good enough. And this is again not my document. You can go search on the net. I'll give you the name also of the document, so there is nothing to hide. This is not something that I made. Look at this. This is what it is. Okay, so I hope you can hear me well now. Somebody's dropped me a line that not audible, but I hope I'm audible now. If not, just drop me a message. I've just so I've dropped a message to everyone. In case you're not able to hear me, please message me back. Okay, so you missed the last. Somebody said you missed the last point. Is that a checklist? This is not really a checklist. Basically, it's just a description criterion. I'll just show you what it is. Checklist is something that you get in SOC 2. There is no checklist over here. So description criterion for management's description of the entity's cybersecurity risk management program. And here you'll see what is there. This is the overall layout of the document. I'll quickly jump into the description. It's a very well read, very well read. So if you're a cybersecurity professional, uh, even though your organization is not coming under SOC for cybersecurity, you're asking for it, go through it. It's very well written, very well written. I'll quickly jump into the requirements. So there are the 19 requirements as we had seen, and these are the 19 requirements. As we saw earlier in my slide also, one of the domains was nature of business and operations. So under that, DC is descriptive criteria. The nature of the business entities, business and operations, including the principal products or services. Then, so it starts off with basically a description of what your organization or what the entity's organization is all about. And look at the beautiful implementation guidance that is given below it. And I really commend AICPA for this document. It's very well written, and even for understanding of what your organization, of what is required for your company, this is a great implementation guidance when making judgments about the nature. So it helps like an initial understanding of your organization. Then comes again the nature of information. So we start off with what is the business all about? What is the entity's business and operations all about. Then it moves into the special types, the nature of information at risk. Again, this will depend on your scope. So if you've just said that, okay, I'll only look at my, maybe some particular type of processing data that you receive from a particular client, you can put that as your scope and include that as your nature of information at risk. So again, that is not really allowed in SOC 2, but you can do that over here. It gives you the flexibility. And so the nature of information at risk again depends on what is the scope of SOC for cybersecurity in your organization, what you've taken or finalized as the scope in your organization. So the principal types of sensitive information: created, collected, transmitted, used, or stored by the entity. I'm sorry, I'm just having a slight cough. And, my voice is not really that heavy, so it's got a beautiful baritone, I'm sure. But I hope you can understand what I'm saying. The principal types of, so here it is, the implementation guidance also. So based on protection, based on law, so it could be that you want to put even the privacy data, because you are coming under Data Privacy Act, and you want to put that as a part of your scope in software cybersecurity, because Data Privacy Act again doesn't really have an attestation. This could be one of the ways in which it can be done. You can take the attestation for software cybersecurity just for your privacy data in the organization. So here the warrants would be, for protection would be because it's protected by the law. And third party entity information, what is entity information all about? So what is the information at risk comes here. The third would be the risk program objectives. What are your commitments that you have made to your clients? What are the commitments that you have made to your stakeholders for availability, confidentiality, integrity, then integrity of data, integrity of processing? So what does the law require you to be? What are the industry standards that you're following? And maybe you are enhancing or maybe growing into some new areas which could further increase the risk that your organization might be getting into. So it has given you some recommendations on the basis of which you can arrive at the closure for DC3. That is, what are your risk management program objectives? So here there is availability, there is confidentiality. You can choose or you can write. These are all recommendations. Please understand. That is their integrity of processing. Finally is the risk appetite, that you may say that, okay, this much is okay with me and this much is not okay with me. I do not accept it, or you might accept it, whatever. And the DC4, establishing to support the achievement. So what is the process for establishing, maintaining, and approving? So you define the objectives. Now what is the process for actually rolling out those objectives to achieve the entities, that is your organization's objectives? This has to be very detailed. I'll take you through an illustrative report also. Now, coming to the next domain, that is factors that have a significant effect on the inherent cybersecurity risk. Inherent risk, I'm sure that you understand, is the risk that is faced by an organization inherent to who you are and what you're doing. So what are the typical factors that is there, inherent risk in your organization for cybersecurity? That is really covered over here. And as you see, it also speaks about the technology, mobile devices, virtualization, whatever could be the case, which could introduce more risk within the organization, type of applications, infrastructure, what service providers you're, using in your organization, the web-facing applications that might be there, external party access, dependency on, IT equipment and systems, strategically and significant IT equipment. All those things comes into place. What is the organization size, the user groups, where are the entities, entities, information, assets located, used, comes into place over here. I'm just rushing through this because I'm running short of time, but you can always drop me a line if you have any queries, or you can look up the documentation yourself. Then the next thing, DC6, is extremely important. That is what is the process for managing security incidents within your organization, and what is the disclosure process? How do you gauge the depth of your the incidents in your organization? So what is the outcome of it? That were you penalized by the legal regulatory agency, resulted in withdrawal from market suppliers. So what has been the outcome? So it shows your risk exposure to external factors. Now again, here there is a governance structure within the organization. Now, for any sort of risk management framework to work, in my opinion, being in this industry for like 25 years, I believe that the risk governance structure, like I see so many organizations where the second level team is very good, and they're putting the heart and soul into maintaining information security in the cyber security, information security in their organization, but they're basically like a headless chicken. Now, I'm not saying that there is something wrong with them, but the whole point is that their bosses couldn't care less. Their bosses could be because their bosses really doesn't have any idea. They got some person from somewhere to head cybersecurity or information security as a CISO in the organization, and it doesn't have any idea about how information security has to be managed in the organization. So without the right guidance and how information and risk has to be governed, it all loses, luster. And in most cases and not, sometimes the employees simply stop looking into it because it's none of their concern, they would say. I'm sorry, my cough. And in some cases, the the it happens on whatever is basis, and then it gets done. Okay, so how the management sets a tone at the top, establishment of the standards of conduct for entity personnel, a remedy of deviations, consideration of contractors, but it all depends on how the risk governance happens in the organization. That brings me to DC 8, that is the process of board oversight for the organization cybersecurity program. Board oversight in, if I may say, 9 out of 10 companies where we have seen, the board oversight is just namesake. Board oversight is basically restricted to the CISO level at best, or at the audit and compliance, and that's about it. Very, very few companies actually take information security very seriously at the board level. At the board level, basically what I've seen happens in most companies is that it basically but the budget goes for approval. Why do you want to do this, and can it be done cheaper, and is there any cheaper vendor, is there a cheaper supplier? But here the process for board oversight comes very well, has to be covered, and you have to demonstrate that. And then establish cybersecurity accountability and reporting lines. Again, there is a very good overlap between SOC and SOC 2, because all of these things that you see are covered as a part of TSC1, that is security within SOC 2. So establish accountability and reporting lines within the organization. So it could be whistleblowers program, it could be identification of a cybersecurity leader, which could be the CISO or somebody else within the organization. So the implementation guidance is very good over here. The process is to hire and develop competent individuals and contractors, and to hold those individuals accountable for cybersec. That is DC10. So once the objective, the risk management, now to the actual rollout of information security requirements or cybersecurity requirements in the organization, you have to show how it is done. Okay, now one question that is coming up over here is that it's asked very well, that what is the control framework to use? Somebody's asked over here. Winston, thank you for this question. What is the control framework to be used for cybersecurity? So for cybersecurity, you can use anything. You might have done NIST, you might have done NIST SP 800 or ISO 27001 or whatever other standard for information security in an organization. If if you had done it properly, then they should have been got covered in one way or the other. But here it is much more descriptive requirements are there. So you can use even your ISO 27001 documentation to satisfy software cybersecurity requirements. But what I've seen over here is that it's much more challenging, it's much more in depth, that the requirements are there. Okay. Now going ahead, the DC12, the risk management program now is starting. identifying, assessing, and managing the risk associated with vendors and business partners. So again, this is basically how you are managing risk. It's basically concerned with our RMP, risk management program. So here it is identifying risks that you've done before in your organization and now with your vendors and business partners. Then it moves into finally the communications and the quality of cybersecurity information. For internal communication, which could be objectives for cybersecurity, thresholds for communication. So again, very detailed. As you can see from the keywords or the job description, acknowledgement of code, employee sign confidentiality agreements, you can see that if you've done your ISO 27000 also very well, I mean very well, then you can possibly satisfy much of the requirements of SOC for cybersecurity. If you've done NIST, then still better. And okay, a good question has come up. NIST SP 800, yes, that is for risk. That's for risk management, of course. But there is, if you just look at my previous webinar, that is webinar number 21, we have put out how you can develop a cybersecurity program using the NIST guidelines. And if you're using the NIST guidelines for developing a cybersecurity framework, then you're able to satisfy the SOC for cybersecurity requirements much, much better. Really sorry. Please excuse me for a moment. I'll just get some water. Yes, hi. I'm back after a sip of water, and I hope you can hear me better now. So thank you for your patience. Now, here it is, the process of communicating with the external parties of your risk management framework, which are basically affected by your cybersecurity exposure. SOC 2 does a brilliant job in how this is to be done. You can use even a part of the SOC 2 framework to take care of this. NIST guidelines for managing these, communication with external parties is there. You can use that also. And then last but not the least is the monitoring of the cybersecurity RMP, risk management program. Okay. So the process for conducting ongoing and periodic evaluation of the operating effectiveness of the key control activities. Again, as you can see, you can use whichever is there are many, requirements are there. There are many frameworks that you can use, including the HITRUST, HIPAA HITRUST, that is, and then used to evaluate and communicate in a timely manner of the identified security threats to the board of directors as appropriate. The control processes, last three controls that is there for developing a response to the assessed risk, which could be the design and the implementation of the control processes. And the second last is a summary of the entities, IT infrastructure and the network architectural characteristics. Now this last two controls becomes the most elaborate of writings that the CPA has to do, and the key security policies. And again, commenting on the effectiveness of that. So these are the basic 19 requirements, that is the DC requirements for cybersecurity, SOC for cybersecurity. And you can use this to roll it out within the organization. The implementation guidelines are also very good. And now I'll quickly take you through an illustrative report of SOC for cybersecurity also. Okay, and this is again an illustrative report for SOC for cybersecurity. And here it is, illustrative report for SOC for cybersecurity. As always, there will be a management assertion of what the organization is all about, the introduction, the inherent limitations. Yeah. The independent accountant's report, that is a CPS summarization of his handoff on this thing. I'll quickly jump into the DC section. Here it is DC1, and as you can see, the nature of business, you can see the same thing that you saw earlier. That is the nature of business, entities, business operations, the principal products, how it is to be done, the nature of information at risk. I'm quickly taking you through it, but this report is available on the AICPA website also. So you can have a glimpse of how this particular report contains R. This is DC3, the enterprise cyber risk management program objectives, as we've seen earlier. And they have not done a copy paste over here, but they've actually fine-tuned this for that particular organization. And what has happened is this organization is a manufacturing organization, this sample organization. So it's not really a service-based organization, it's a manufacturing organization. That goes to the point that SOC for cybersecurity need not necessarily be only for organizations that are into that are primarily only into providing services to external clients. This can even be for non-service based organizations. Okay, here it is. Now, I'm sorry, I'm getting quite a few questions, but those are all for SOC 2. So I'm sorry, I will not be responding to it now. I'm running short of time and I have to do this. And I'll respond to the SOC 2 queries also by mail. And towards the end, I'll show you my other webinars also. If you go to the webinars, it's much more details and tons of questions are answered in that. Okay, there's a DC5. Okay, what all systems are there in place? What all VPNs technologies are being used? So it is not just an overall feel-good report. It has to be an actual representation of what the client environment is all about. Look at this. They've even recorded one of the changes that has happened in the period and how it was done. Now for cybersecurity, again, cybersecurity incidents, they have, if they don't have anything that has happened in the last 1 year or something like that, then it is fine. Otherwise, look at the way they have written over here. So there was some attack by SQL injection, and it was detected approximately 66 hours after the incident. That's almost like 3 days post facto. And it took another 5 days for remediation. So it's almost like more than a week that went by. So it resulted in heavy impact on the organization. I'll quickly jump to the end. I wanted to show you how the last two controls, that is 18 and 19, have been documented by the CPA. Yeah, a summary of the entity's IT infrastructure and network architectural characteristics. So overall, how it is working within the organization. As you can see, this is extremely elaborate. What they are using, as you can see, if you can just read this, it pinpoints the technology that is in place, how it is being managed. And again, as you must have seen, no sensitive information such as disclosure of specific technologies or disclosure of IP addresses or what sort of data, what type of server stored where, what is the network diagram. All those things have not been disclosed, are never to be disclosed in a SOC for cybersecurity, because this is an open for all report. This is like a public issue document. It's not like a SOC 2 document, which all, which may contain, which would contain rather severely sensitive information. And okay, look at how this is done. So the overall working of all these parameters, this 5 parameters within the organization, have to be detailed out below. So it becomes the last control, DC, not control, the description criterion becomes extremely exhaustive and comprehensive in the write-ups. And again, it divulges a lot of information and at the same time doesn't get into specifics. So you're not really pushing out sensitive information. But again, as per your discretion, you might decide that no, we will not issue the SOC for cybersecurity report to anybody and everybody. It will be on a need to know basis only, and that's also fine. Again, so this is extremely detailed, how it is being reviewed, who it's being reported to, how the agreements are made, how the reviews are being done, your RPOs for disaster recovery, business continuity, everything is there. Okay, so I have to just run now, so stay with me. So we saw the description criterion, we saw a brief illustrative report also. Now, which report do I need? So it depends. And now you might ask which report, whether it's a SOC 2 or a SOC for cybersecurity. So if they're specific for a particular system, then it would be SOC 2. Now it would be for cybersecurity as a whole in the organization, it will be SOC for cybersecurity. And again, what is the goals and business requirements of the organization? For if it is a strong need for visibility and quality assurance, then it will be SOC for cybersecurity. And if it is needed to for an extremely detailed examination of a high risk environment, then it will be SOC 2. Yeah. Now, also on the norms and expectations of your industry. So what are the client expectations? What are the competitors doing? What can be used for differentiating within your organization, within the market? Can help you decide whether you need SOC for SOC 2 or SOC 2 or SOC for cybersecurity. In many cases, it might be both. Because the SOC for cybersecurity would look at, the overall risk management program in the organization, and SOC 2 are more specific for design of a particular system or particular scope of operations within the organization based on the trust criterion. The SOC for cybersecurity is more open-ended. And for the audit firm selection, you have to go with a licensed CPA firm who's got accredited CPA. Don't jump from multiple CPAs from one to the other for specific reports. For SOC 1, one person, for SOC 2, a different one. Don't do that. And then what is the audit team all about? Of the CPA firm. Okay, that brings me to the end. And these are our past webinars that we have had so far. We've had 22 so far. They're all there on our YouTube channel. This is the SOC for cybersecurity 21. Then there is a 22nd coming up. That will be there. So they're all there on our YouTube channel. Now, whatever questions you might have, please do type it and mail it across to me. I'll share my email address with you. And just as a small request, we put in a lot of effort and time into planning and rolling out these webinars. Please do drop in a small comment with the survey that comes up at the end of this webinar as to what you think about it. If you have some specific points of critical comments, that's also more than welcome, because you want to improve. You might want some specific subjects to be covered. Please do drop that. I'll definitely consider it. And if it's just a small line of appreciation, of course, that's also welcome. It serves as a huge encouragement to the team who work so hard to get this done. So this is our YouTube channel. You can see youtube.com VISTA InfoSec official. You sign up and then click on the bell icon, and then you can come to know we upload a lot of content pertaining to cybersecurity, information security, compliance, and governance. We are there on Facebook. We are there on LinkedIn. We keep on posting many news items, updates, recent happenings. So it's a great way to be in touch. So do sign up or keep in touch on that. And this is my coordinates in case you would like to drop me a line. So do write to us, and I look forward to hearing from you. And again, do excuse the cough. There's nothing much I could do about it. But thank you for being there and hanging on till the very end. You've been a great audience, and have a wonderful evening ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.